Welcome, my name is Mitch Peters, an instructional designer on a trial project with the Happiness Division. I'll be presenting a brief overview of a course on domain support training. The aim is to empower happiness engineers during domain support interactions. To begin, I'm going to discuss the course structure, which is organized into 4 modules. These modules represent identified job behaviors that will help the Happiness Division reach measurable training goals. The identified high priority behaviors are first, understanding the domain lifecycle, including common domain behavior over time, diagnosing and troubleshooting domain support issues, including how to gather critical information, and identifying and deciding on which internal tools and resources to use, escalating and tracking tickets across the domain support lifecycle, and finally implementing domain support solutions, which involves both internal and external documentation and communication. The current module, Module 3, which is what will be briefly overviewed in this introductory video, involves escalating and tracking tickets and understanding the role of the Domain Guild, which is a subgroup of happiness engineers specialized in domain support knowledge. They're responsible for providing indirect support to the broader higher happiness engineer population during the customer support lifecycle. The outcome, however, of a domain guild is that specialized knowledge becomes siloed and bottlenecks develop, creating slower turnaround times on domain tickets. An identified problem here is that the domain guild often find themselves answering questions or handling tickets that any HE could handle if they had sufficient training or know-how. Moving to the specific learning objectives, after completing the practice activities in this module, happiness engineers should be able to apply procedural guidelines for when and how to escalate a domain support issue, practice support due diligence, understand how to communicate relevant information, and apply procedural guidelines for tracking P2 posts and escalated tickets to resolution. The practice activity in this module represents the core element of the module. It is based on a mini branching scenario using a question stem, which involves multiple choices, multiple choice answers, with an identified realistic on-the-job problem. The particular problem in this case is a never before encountered domain support issue. Although the happiness engineer understands the support request, they currently do not have the know-how to diagnose or implement a solution. Here we ask what they should do in this particular situation, what specific steps should they take. And in order to create this activity, we've developed answers which reflect both the best possible decision or action a happiness engineer could take, as well as common mistakes which they may take, which could decrease customer support and create longer turnaround times on tickets. So, for example, for each answer, we have feedback developed. For response A, do your support due diligence, investigate with care, and then escalate if needed. The feedback for this gives procedural guidelines for how to search Domains University, MATS Global Search, Slack, as well as Google if relevant, and even pass tickets for similar issues or solutions. Here we want to communicate procedural guidelines or common rules which happiness engineers should follow when escalating and when deciding on what they should do before escalating to the domain guild. For example, feedback for answer B, which involves escalating the issue by pinging the domain guild. They are the experts with specialist knowledge. This answer would come with feedback which identifies it as a common mistake. Escalating an issue too early, not explaining an issue clearly, or failing to provide necessary links are all common mistakes which happiness engineers can make, which can lead to confusion and make it difficult or time-consuming for members of the domain guild to assess the situation. And the outcome of this means longer wait times and delays for the customer, and in fact decreasing the customer support experience. To complement the practice activity, the module also includes essential information for domain support escalation, and in this particular case it involves the development of a support escalation flowchart, which involves common procedural guidelines and timelines for when and how and where to escalate a particular domain support situation. Thank you for your attention. Feel free to leave comments on the Trial Project P2.